Hello and good afternoon and welcome. This is Made Smarter, and we are talking today. It's our LinkedIn Live session, number 8 of the series that we've done. And today we're going to talk about all things Made Smarter, the green economy with our colleagues from the green economy team, manufacturing and the SME. I'm joined on the call today, this lunchtime, by 3 illustrious guests who I will allow them to introduce themselves. But we're going to start with a colleague of mine, Will Kinghorn. Sorry, Will, I'll get your name right. I've only worked with you for 2.5 years. Becky Chedd from the Green Economy, and Mark Bayley-Smyth, who is or his business has been through the Made Smarter program. Will, please introduce yourself. Tell everybody what it is that you do, etc.
Hello, I'm one of the technology advisors at Made Smarter in the Northwest. So I work with small and medium-sized manufacturing businesses to help them with the adoption of technology, giving them advice and support on anything really that relates to technology within a manufacturing business. I've been at Made Smarter for about 3.5 years now.
And you're an engineer as well.
Yes, started off as a manufacturing engineer, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So quite a bit of experience to bring to bear into the programme. Becky?
Morning, I'm Becky Chedd. I'm a sustainability and net zero consultant for Green Economy, which is part of the Growth Company. So I help businesses in Greater Manchester to decarbonise, work out their carbon footprints and identify opportunities to reduce those. I've been at the Growth Company for 9 years now, and my background is in environmental science.
Fantastic. And Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. So I am non-exec director for a company called Qualkem, which is a chemicals manufacturer, bottler, filler, who are based in Crewe in Cheshire. I've been with the company for about 2 years now, but work passionately in manufacturing and industry for, unfortunately, many years longer than that. The company Qualkem, we've actually had a lot of support from the Made Smarter program for the last couple of years, and we're proud to actually be part of the Made Smarter journey and taken a lot of advice and gained a lot of experience from you guys.
Fantastic. And of course, you're great advocates for our program, and you've been involved for quite a number of years in support of the Made Smarter initiative, both in the Northwest and nationally as well. So I was interested. I was just reading a couple of some facts, and 80% of the UK residents have expressed a concern when it comes to climate change, and over a third of UK businesses have seen an improvement in productivity and have been able to reduce costs by prioritising decarbonisation as part of their strategic initiatives. But for the audience today that are listening, and again, there's some SMEs who will know what decarbonisation is, but I think we should frame it. I think we should try and frame that. So, Becky, if I can turn to you, can you try and help us set the scene a little bit in explaining what decarbonisation actually means, and what does net zero mean, and why is it important why is it an important topic to SME manufacturers, both locally in the Northwest, but more in terms of nationally and obviously internationally from their markets that they might serve. So why is it important? What's it about?
Absolutely. So decarbonisation is basically reducing your business's carbon footprint. And your carbon footprint is the total amount of greenhouse gas emissions linked to your business's activities and purchases in a given year. So if you want to set a net zero target, the first thing you need to understand is what is your carbon footprint. So do those calculations, look at your energy consumption, look at the data, and work out what your baseline is. The net zero agenda is important for businesses because the UK has a target to be net zero by 2050. And so many businesses are setting themselves the same target or even a more ambitious target. So lots of people are setting more near-term targets now around carbon reduction. In Greater Manchester, The city region has a target to be carbon neutral by 2038. So there's lots of conversations going on. There's lots of pressure for businesses to understand their carbon footprint and start taking actions to reduce it. So when we talk about net zero, we're talking about firstly reducing your carbon footprint as much as you possibly can. It's not just about offsetting it. So the best practice standard is to reduce your carbon footprint by 90% and then offset the remaining 10%. So the focus is really on carbon reduction, and that's by the year 2050. So in order to achieve that, you need to start looking at actions that you can take today to cut down your carbon footprint.
Great. And Will, just from a manufacturer's, SME manufacturer's perspective in particular, why do they need to understand decarbonisation, and what role is decarbonisation going to play for a manufacturer in their business?
So from a manufacturing company's point of view, they'll probably be quite surprised at the size of carbon emissions that they have when you consider their kind of all the different scopes. So everything that they kind of emit directly from their business, but also from their supply chain and their customers as well. So as Becky mentioned, all the targets that we have in Greater Manchester, 2038, from nationally it's 2050. It's much easier to start now and work towards it gradually than it is to wait until 2037 or 2049 and think, oh, actually now I need to do something. So from a regulation point of view, it's really important, but also from just an efficiency point of view, or from your workforce point of view, if you're showing that you've got a value to look after the environment and make a positive impact, that can have an effect on your local community and your workforce and help with loads of things like employee retention or improved orders. So there's a lot of benefits that come with it as well. So I think it's important to understand initially from a regulations point of view, but also the additional benefits you can see from it as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you see any, Will, do you see any sort of misconceptions surrounding decarbonisation in terms of, is it complicated? Is it going to be expensive to deliver from an SME? I mean, bust some myths for me, if you wouldn't mind.
I think probably the biggest thing that I see is a lot of leaders know they should be doing something, but it's quite far down the list of priorities. They have loads of other issues like supply chain disruption or material costs or staff recruitment, that sort of thing. And they think, well, let's sort these problems out first and then I'll get down to decarbonisation later on. But actually, decarbonisation can really help with those benefits as well, so those issues. So if you learn about it, you can address kind of more than one problem at a time by using decarbonisation. I think the other point is a lot of companies, when we ask about it, say, well, we've got LED light bulbs and we've looked at solar panels, so that's it. But there's more to it than that. There's a lot more opportunities, a lot more things to go at. So it is certainly wider than LED light bulbs and solar panels, even though they are a great place to start.
Is that what you're seeing, Mark, as well as a leader in an organisation? Is Will missed anything out? Is there other things that you're coming across?
No, I think there's some really good points there, and I think for me, it's many businesses I speak to, have said in the past, it doesn't really matter. We've got bigger priorities. What I try to do and what we've done within the Qualkem team is actually look at the whole picture. Decarbonisation is not standalone. It's part of your wider business strategy, and it's actually a strategic lever in your business to drive efficiency, which directly comes into profitability and revenue generation. And from the cost side of the things, many things are an investment, which some small businesses don't have that cash flow. What I would suggest is look at the impact, look at the return on that investment. I think if you take the time to look at what the outputs will be, you'll be extremely surprised. And I can share some information that we've done in the past. And the final thing I think you touched on was, it's difficult. Well, yeah, but there is an awful lot of help and support out there, of course, from the Made Smarter team. And there's also, grant and finance opportunities available in some areas. So I would say is, you don't know what you don't know. Be brave and ask those questions, because there is definitely support out there.
Yes, definitely. I mean, just picking up on that point there about the tools that are available. Certainly from a Made Smarter digital transformation perspective, decarbonisation it's almost an added benefit for digital transformation, really, in some respects. So, Will, if you start to think a little bit about those digital tools and the technologies that we offer at Made Smarter, how can that tech, as it were, sort of help manufacturers in reducing their carbon footprint? I mean, is it going to support that journey towards net zero for them?
Yes, I think, like we were saying before, it's important to have it as a consideration when you're looking at a new project. But if you are starting out just to look at decarbonisation, there's things like Internet of Things, which is adding sensors onto your machines. They can tell you when they're running, tell you when they're not running, tell you how much energy they're using. They can monitor the vibrations to tell you if there are problems with it from a maintenance point of view and not running as effectively as they could be. And those sort of systems are really quite affordable and can have a huge benefit to how the company operates. So that payback is very good. Often we get companies looking at software systems to help run the business, and more these include elements to help them calculate their carbon footprint of their products. Whether or not this is kind of detailed enough for regulation compliance, but it's a great place to start, certainly, to understand which elements of your business have a bigger carbon footprint and telling you to where you can kind of focus your efforts, I suppose. So they're probably the two biggest things that, from a technology point of view, that we would see.
Yeah.
Other than new machines often run more efficiently than older ones, but I think primarily it'd be the software or the sensors side of things.
Yeah, and Becky, you as part of the green team, this is your full-time job. You're constantly focusing on decarbonisation and the green support. Thinking about manufacturers, how can SE manufacturers benefit from decarbonisation in your experience?
Yeah, so there are a lot of benefits, as we've discussed already. I guess the one we mainly talk about is cost savings. So if you have a new piece of equipment, or you're implementing a new process, which means you're consuming less energy or being more energy efficient, there's going to be cost savings on your energy bills, and also looking at the specific energy consumption of the product that you're manufacturing and thinking about getting more output compared to the energy being put in. Then there's also other benefits in terms of business reputation. So once you start looking at your carbon footprint and taking actions, you can start talking about those things, sharing good news and getting that sort of brand awareness that you are a green company, that you are taking these things seriously, and all the actions that you've taken to reduce your carbon footprint. This also helps with things like staff retention, attracting new talent as well. It's something that's really important for a lot of people nowadays when they're looking for a place to work, that the company they're working for shares the same values that they do in terms of environmental issues and things like that. So yeah, there are lots and lots of benefits that come with taking action on decarbonisation.
And Mark, from your perspective, obviously technology's helped your particular business on their decarbonisation journey. Can you just tell us a little bit more about how Qualkem has got involved with Made Smart and the project that you undertook with some support from us, and maybe then go on to how that has helped you from a decarbonisation point? Yeah,
absolutely. More than happy to. We did a couple of years ago initially work with Made Smarter on a new revenue stream. We were looking at expanding our production into another product range, and at that time it was a product area that we hadn't got too much experience with, and to be honest we were a little bit concerned on, are we doing the right thing? So we involved Made Smarter very early on in the journey, took a lot of advice, which included a few things you've touched on, selecting more energy efficient machinery, looking at digitizing the processes, not just that machine. So looking at it a wider sort of order to cash, as opposed to just that one production environment. And the biggest outcome for me from that was, okay, the product is made a lot more efficiently, so a lot less cost. but it's had a knock-on effect of changing the mindset and the culture within the business. And what that's meant now, so that was the original project. We've just had a second project, which is just actually going through at the moment, and it's a nice problem to have. So we've actually seen about an 85% increase in our turnover over the last 12 months due to this growth plan. And what that's meant is we've actually hit our capacity. So we looked at putting in a second production line. In the past, we would have just copied and pasted. What we've done together with Made Smarter is actually look at what good could look like. So some of the things that Becky said is getting that initial baseline. We looked at what machines we had today, and then we said, if we do this again for this other production line, what could we look at now? And there were some really key things. So we analysed what's the biggest energy eater for that production line, and we saw it was our labelling machine. The traditional one and current ones in the market were about 3.8 kilowatts. We selected one which 1.5 kilowatts. However, that does 2.5 times more products through. So 250% increase in capacity for less than half the energy. And those are the key things we looked at. And we also looked further on. So we said, okay, when we're putting other things in, how can we do the same things better? So we put in a different heat sealer for our bottle. So we're bottling liquids. The last thing you want for these things to do is leak. So we looked at a heat sealer machine. This heat sealer machine only heats up the foil on the top of the bottle to seal it, only heats the foil up for the time that it's physically on. So when it's not on, it's not using energy. But the other thing is, touching on something on Will said, is because of the automation, the digitization, when it's heating and sealing the bottle, it's actually checking it itself. So as soon as the operator has done that, we instantly get a green light on the screen. Yes, it's sealed. So there's no wastage, there's no leakage, and that to us has been a game changer.
Fantastic. That sounds like real innovation in action, should we say, in terms of assessing a process and looking at even the the micro elements of how long the heat sealer is actually being applied, and obviously that equates to a saving of energy, saving of time. I don't think it's. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's what we're saying is that it's never too late to start that decarbonisation journey. And there's lots of benefits, both financial, both productivity wise, team orientated as well in terms of this process. But from a funding point of view, funding's available through or support's available through Made Smarter and the Green Team to help those sort of implementation of those decarbonisation projects. And I'd like to just maybe bring Will and Becky into this little conversation now in terms of what funding's available, Will, for through the Made Smarter program for these initiatives.
Yes, from a Made Smarter point of view, you get all the advice from our specialists, so we're not limited to the amount of time we can spend with the company to guide you through that process. But probably more importantly for manufacturing companies, we can offer a £20,000 grant towards a project, and that's at a 50% match funded rate. So if you're looking at a £40,000 or £50,000 machine, we can give £20,000 towards it, which is a good incentive to adopt new technology.
Great. And Becky, what does, from the Green Team's perspective, access to funding, signposting, what have we got available for the team or the people that are listening and watching this today? Yeah,
so for any businesses in Greater Manchester, Green Economy has got grant funding for carbon reduction projects. So we have a 50% match funded grant up to a value of £5,000, and that's for things like heating upgrades, compressors, manufacturing equipment, where there's going to be a quantifiable energy saving and carbon saving. So we can come in, look at the project, do all the calculations, and work out if that's going to be a viable project for our grant. We can also help companies to find local suppliers, and we also offer a quote verification process as well.
And is there a calculator available? I'm sure I've seen somewhere that there's a carbon footprint calculator. Is that, it's basic tools, but are those, where do we get access to all those tools from?
So there are lots of free carbon footprint calculators out there available online. We are at the moment developing our own in-house carbon footprint tool as well, but it's not quite ready yet. But I would really encourage people to get external help with calculating your carbon footprint, and put the emphasis really on good quality data collection. So there are a couple of methods you can choose when it comes to your carbon footprint. You can do spend-based data, which is how much we're spending on all of the resources, or there's actual consumption data, which is far more accurate when it comes to calculating your carbon footprint. But I definitely recommend get some external support to help you to get a really accurate carbon footprint, so then you really know what you're working with, and what you need to do to reduce that.
Great. And Will, just picking up from you're a technology specialist in the field of sort of robotics and automation. Is there not just concentrating on those areas? Think about that the wider technology offering from a Made Smarter perspective. Is there any easy technology that SMEs should look to adopt straight away, or is it what is there more innovation elsewhere that they can sort of consider as part of their journey?
It very much depends on the type of business, to be honest. But if you're running machines, the energy monitors or the kind of OEE monitors, so the overall equipment effectiveness monitors, they just clip on the power supply to the machine and they tell you when it's running, when it's not running. And it can infer a load of other information like the energy use or the energy costs, but also the percentage uptime and the loading times and all that kind of stuff just from the power details. So that's a good place to start. There are, depending on which area of the country you're based in, you can get funded support for that as well. So places like the Smart Manufacturing Data Hub do offer that sort of support. So I would say to have a look at your local enterprise partnership or your local chambers in your region just to see what support is available there, because sometimes you can get that sort of initial information funded or at low cost. So that's pretty good place to start, is that the energy monitoring on your particular machines, and the software tools that Becky mentioned as well are a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an awful lot of information out there. I think the audience today, feel free to link in with any of our, or myself as well, people on the call today, and we can either support you directly or signpost you to other support. We're not the experts on everything, but we do know quite a bit of information, and we are able to access and provide support in terms of signposting to other areas and other sources of funding that could be available. Just before we are running to time, but just a really important area, and I'd like to ask Mark about this in terms of leadership and development, because that's a key area, I think, from in terms of decarbonisation and its effectiveness and how that can be achieved within an organisation. So just from a final thoughts almost, Mark, and your experience as a senior leader over the years, in terms of what are the qualities, what are you looking for from a leadership perspective to help ensure that these decarbonisation projects are successful?
But it's more the seeing that bigger picture again. It's if I take it on an easy level from our initial help with Made Smarter at Qualkem, actually taking the time out, pressing that pause button for a minute to actually look at the wider business needs, and actually have a different point of view, look at it as a more wider strategic perspective. That's the key thing. The outcome of that is a culture change. And I think that culture change is important, to look at that wider picture. It's not just saving the planet, it's not just saving energy, it's actually what are we doing to become a lot more productive, to be even more efficient. How can we drive our growth? How can we give people better, more skilled jobs? It is that wider change in our culture. And we actually now have changed some of our onboarding of people within the business on looking more at that overall cultural aspect first, before the skills, because a lot of those skills can be trained, whereas that culture is absolutely key. Wider afield within other businesses that we work with locally, it is again looking at that cultural shift. What do we need to do? And to be honest, be more inquisitive, be open to change, and to really ask for help. We are quite good in small businesses in looking inward, and we haven't been so good in the past in actually looking outward and welcoming advice. Where Made Smarter has had great impact on other business leaders, other business we're working with, is actually that peer support behind the scenes. So you guys come in, have a relatively small time with us as a touch point, but actually you leave a trail of benefits further down, because that peer support is ongoing, that best practice sharing, that helping each other. That's where an awful lot comes out. And that's the sort of thing that the leaders of today and tomorrow need to be a lot more collaborative, and they need to be a lot more open to help and also to give back as well.
I think that's a really good point there to finish on, Mark, is that it's that peer-to-peer networking that goes on after their involvement with Made Smarter, or after the involvement with the Green Team. I don't think we can underestimate that. We are limited to a certain degree in terms of how much funding and support we can give. I know Will says we can continue to support you after the project, etc., which we will do. And as with the Green Team, there's networks available for businesses to join. But I think it's really important, that peer-to-peer. It's learning from other businesses, and it's I think somebody, and it might even been you, Mark, said about having the battle scars to show from going through these programs, and it's those battle scars that you can and experiences that you can help other organisations with in terms of both digital transformation and also from how that might support decarbonisation. Made Smarter does also have an organisation workforce development team from a training and leadership support perspective. And we do run 2 courses for digital transformation in terms of leading digital change for more senior leaders, and then leading change for digital champions programs. And both of those digital transformation programs can then go on in terms of the rationale behind them to support you with a transformative approach towards your decarbonisation. So it's worth looking at maybe getting onto those programs. Becky, any final thoughts in terms of training and leadership support that you can give from the green economy perspective?
Yeah, so we have got a training course called Journey to Net Zero, which is a 3-day course for business leaders who are wanting to understand. You can be a complete beginner in terms of the carbon world. What is your carbon footprint? How do you work it out? What are the easy steps to take to begin with on your journey to net zero? How to set a net zero strategy, and all of the support that comes around that. So we've got upcoming cohorts of Journey to Net Zero, which can be found on our website, Green Economy. And we also run other workshops and events as well on other related topics. It's all fully funded for businesses in Greater Manchester. And we've also got lots of other resources, blogs, DIY advice, case studies on our website as well. So there's lots and lots that you can access even if you're not in Greater Manchester.
Sure, and I suppose people watching this, it's a national broadcast. So even if you start with us, we can't help you, or you can't help you, Becky. It's that signposting piece, isn't it? There's going to be a version of you in another region.
Yeah, definitely. Check out who your local growth hub is, and find out what support's available locally to you. Okay.
Listen, that's we could keep going with this topic. I don't think we've done it justice in the 30 minutes that we've been broadcasting today. But I'd just like to thank Becky from the Green Economy team at the Growth Company, Will Kinghorn from Made Smarter, and Mark Bayley-Smyth, Executive Director at Qualkem, for joining us today. We're looking forward to our next broadcast, which is in the middle of August. But before we close off today, in the link below, someone will post a link to a great white paper that we've created on this subject from Made Smarter. It's called Decarbonisation Through Digitalisation. I'd encourage you to download that white paper and share it with some colleagues, and of course to reach out to either all of the team here today or to the Made Smarter community directly to see what support's available for you on both topics of digital transformation and decarbonisation. Thanks again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.